Story 1. Today I messed up by realizing 8 months too late that a coworker asked me out. Throw away so my main doesn't get flooded. So I made a TIFU about 8 to 9 months ago that I'm only now realizing was very likely me being asked out by a girl at work. Let me start by saying I'm 26 and have never had the greatest self-esteem. It's something I've been working on. I've also never had a girlfriend or asked someone out, and I've never had the easiest time opening up to make friends. Although I haven't gotten tested, I suspect I might be on the spectrum. The only time I found out about girls liking me was well after they've moved on or through another person. I work in the healthcare field as a CNA on a med-surg floor. I started this job 2 years ago, and since then I've met a lot of travel nurses. About a year ago, my floor had a travel nurse come through. She had albinism and was absolutely gorgeous with a capital G, almost scarily beautiful in a way that made you question if she was real or a straight-up hallucination. She and I never talked too much until I got most of her patients on one of my shifts, and we began to talk regularly. Another couple of months go by, and near the end of her contract, we're talking, and the topic of blood pressures comes up. I let her know that I never learned how to do a manual blood pressure reading. Please, hindsight is 20/20. At the time, I seriously thought she and I were just work friends. I've met and talked to plenty of coworkers outside of work, and it's always been platonic and cordial or in a group setting. Anyways, she had already told me her contract was ending, and the next day was her last, which I wouldn't be working. But she'd be in town for an extra week before she moved on, and she had a manual blood pressure cuff at her place. She asked if I'd like to come by sometime so she could show me. God, I don't know what kind of demon possessed my brain or if God himself sucked out my ability to read the mood, but my fucking idiot self opened my mouth and essentially said, "No, I'm busy working. I'll get Janet to show me the next time I'm here." From there, the conversation basically died as we waited for the 7:30 a.m. clock out time. Story 2. Today I messed up in the middle of a lesbian spat that has nothing to do with me. I recently changed my phone number and ended up with one previously owned by a woman who changed her number to get away from her ex-girlfriend. To make this less confusing, let's call the ex-girlfriend Sarah and the other woman Lisa. One day I received a message from Lisa because she texted her previous number, which is now mine, and asked if I could provide a security code being sent to the number so she could log in to her social media accounts and update them with her new number. I provided her with the codes when she requested them. I was also happy to help because I needed her to remove the number from her account so I could link it to mine. Note I use a password manager. My 2FA codes are generated within the manager, so my 2FA codes aren't sent via SMS. I also have passkey set up on all accounts which allow it. Some of you believe that I shouldn't have given her the codes. I can't argue with that, but in this particular case, Lisa's intentions were honest, nothing nefarious. We chatted a bit about general stuff and decided to keep the lines of communication open in case we needed to access an account or something. Lisa had this number for a very long time because it was linked to everything. When she went through an easy pass, I got an alert. When her kid were absent from school, I got an alert. Changes in her credit score, I got an alert. Doctor's office appointments, hospital visits, pharmacy alerts, spa check-ins, hair salon appointments. I even knew when she got her car's oil changed along with an inspection report. I texted Lisa one day asking her to remove her number from a social app so I could create an account using my new number. What I didn't know was that at the time I texted her, she was around Sarah for reasons I don't know. Sarah saw my name pop up and assumed I was someone Lisa was involved with. Lisa had spent a weekend at a hotel a few weeks prior before I knew her with someone, and Sarah thinks I'm that person. Now, Sarah somehow got my number and called, pretending to be a friend of Lisa. I told her this is no longer her number, but I am in contact with Lisa. I'll let her know to reach out to you. She then started asking how I knew Lisa. I explained the situation. Then she started asking where I was from, saying I'm Jackie. What's your name? I was a bit nervous answering those questions because it seemed invasive for someone reaching out to the wrong person, but I answered them. I texted Lisa to let her know that someone named Jackie was looking for her. As it turned out, Lisa was with Jackie at the time, so it was impossible for her to call. That's when the drama really started because Sarah was pretending to be Jackie during that call. Now, Sarah has called me from about 20 different numbers pretending to be various people in an attempt to get information on me. She has cussed me out and blown up my phone and hasn't stopped. Since I got the number, I've also received calls from debt collectors looking for Sarah. I usually tell them I don't know who that is and that I just got this number, and they say they'll remove it from the system. Now, when a debt collector calls looking for Sarah, I say I don't know her, but I can't stand that bitch. I then give them Sarah's main number. Just to be clear, I don't know any of these women. All I did was get a new number, and it came with all this bullshit. Story 3. Today I messed up by not researching before going to a movie. This was several months ago, and I'm no longer with the guy this happened with, but I'm now at the point where I'm able to find more humor in what happened. Will just be referring to him as my BF during the story for simplicity. At some point during a conversation with my BF, I mentioned that I have never seen a specific anime. It's a pretty popular one that's heavily referenced in other stuff and everything, but I haven't seen it. When I was younger, I had an online friend tell me that it sucked and to never bother watching it, so I never added it to my watch list or anything. My BF tells me that I should watch it and tells me that he'd want to get me into it at some point. Even if I haven't heard many great things about it, I'm still down, probably still worth watching since it had a decent cultural impact. A few weeks later, he tells me that the anime's Endova is being replayed soon in a theater near us, and he invites me to go with him to see it the following week. I know he's been wanting to get me into it, so this seems like a perfectly reasonable way to do so. The week passes and we both arrive at the theater. We arrive separately since we both came straight from work. I feel good and reasonably prepared since I already know a few general things about it through general word of mouth. I knew that it was pretty heavily emotionally. I was in a bit of a bad headspace at this time, but nothing I couldn't handle. I knew a little bit about the characters. And I knew that this OVA wasn't canon to the rest of the anime. It didn't seem strange to me that he was introducing me to the anime with non-canon material. I do that with people all the time. We get food and drinks, we find seats, sit down, etc. I tell him that I knew a few general things about some of the characters since I talked a bit about it with a coworker that day, and the mood shifts. He's completely surprised to hear that I haven't seen any of the anime. He thinks it'll be hilarious and awful for me to see the OVA without extremely important context. Obviously, I become extremely confused by this since he knew I haven't seen the anime, and he responds to my confusion by telling me I had an entire week to watch the anime, read a summary, or doing anything necessary to prepare for the movie. I had not done any of this. I was under the impression that inviting me to this movie was his way of introducing me to the anime like he wanted. I didn't Google anything. I didn't ask anybody else anything about it until the day of while at work. He also told me that I was only invited since he didn't know anybody else he could invite to go with him. It had absolutely nothing to do with introducing me to an anime he likes and watching it with me. It wasn't even about spending time with me. I was usually more than okay with doing stuff I didn't personally care about with him if I knew it's important to him, and it meant getting to spend time with him. This put me into an absolute horrible mood. I felt like an idiot. He texted his friends about funny the situation was, which only made me feel worse. I then proceeded to watch extremely confusing and disturbing content. It was very emotionally heavy, and even if I didn't fully understand what was happening, I could feel the mood it was portraying a bit. I have never seen so much yonic imagery in my life. The stress of the situation combined with the movie made me fall apart into a crying mess. It was awful. The anime was the end of Evangelion. There's not really any spoilers in anything I wrote, but that's hidden just in case. I still haven't watched the rest of the anime. I associate it with that absolutely miserable experience, and it's going to be a while until I can ever watch it. Story 4. Today I messed up by having alone time by a window. I made a throwaway account for this. Because if I don't tell someone I'm going to scream, but I also do not want it linked back to me in any way. I'm a college student currently staying at my mom's house for the summer. However, her house has been constantly under construction for years, and the completed parts of it are sectioned off for my mom to rent out as micro-apartments. Thanks to this, there is currently only one bedroom available in the section we use, which is being used by my little sister. My mom and I sleep in the living room. Thanks to this, I don't exactly have a lot of privacy too. The bathroom isn't exactly an option either, since it is a spider magnet and I am terrified of spiders. I had to kill 3 just yesterday to shower in relative peace. I use the word relative because while I killed the ones in the tub, there were at least 5 more on the ceiling and the window above. As I'm sure you can guess, I like to be in and out of there as fast as possible. Which means my only option is the couch on which I sleep. Which brings me to about an hour ago when my mother left for work much earlier than planned. My little sister was also at work, giving me the perfect opportunity. I got right to it and laid on the couch, which happens to be near a picture window. The window is just within viewing height should someone stand by it, but our house isn't in a high traffic area and doesn't have other houses across the street. But I wanted to be a bit cautious and kept my clothes on and pulled a blanket over my lap, even if it would be kind of obvious what I was doing, since I had my legs spread with one hand under the blanket and the other holding my phone. It's still an added bit of privacy that makes me feel safer, and it clearly came in handy. It's exactly not the first time I've done it with this setup, and nothing's gone wrong yet, so like I said, I got to it. When I was done, I pulled my hand out of my shorts and was just sitting up when I heard a knock at the door. I obviously start freaking out internally, but I figured it must be the female renter who knocks and speaks with us fairly often. Not exactly the worst case scenario, and the route from where she stays to the front door of our section doesn't pass by the window. So I answered the door wearing my stay inside all day outfit. This consists of very short runner shorts and a tank top so loose and thin it requires a bra in order to not be flashing anything. Thankfully, I had been wearing one, but I still quite a bit of cleavage on display. It was not the female renter. I opened the door to find this man I've never seen before, who explained that he was supposed to be meeting my mom to discuss construction work for the house. Gee, thanks for the heads up, Mom. I explained that she wasn't there, and he started rambling about how he noticed her car wasn't there, so he figured she must have gotten some last-minute work. Then he held out his hand for me to shake. Keep in mind I hadn't washed my hands yet, so I just awkwardly shook his hand with the one I'd used to hold my phone. I'm hoping that the offering of a handshake means that he hadn't seen anything, not that he was being weird. I said I'd let my mom know he'd dropped by, and he finally left. That's when I realized that he had a second, very tall guy with him, and that there was a clear line of sight from the window to where they'd parked. If they did notice, wish me luck that they don't mention anything to my mother, or anyone else for that matter.